Hi, I would like to introduce you to the great horses of Japan. This time is MrCB. MrCB is a male horse born in 1980. His father was Taosho Boy. His mother was CB Queen. This, Taosho Boy and CB Queen have run together in their debut race. Both horses were active. CB Queen won 3 graded races, and Taosho Boy is so well known to anyone who follows horse racing. To briefly explain about Taosho Boy, he won Satsuki Sho and Arimakinen with his great speed, and he was at the center of an era called the TTG era together with 10 Point and Green Grass. People called him Tenma, that's Pegasus, and loved him. Do you see how much MrCB has in his bloodline? He was the first foal of the CB Queen. It has been said that many of the horses foaled by Taosho Boy have weak hips and unsteady center of gravity in their hind legs, but MrCB had none of these faults. This fact also added to his reputation. In November 1982, MrCB had his debut race in Tokyo. The jockey was a guy named Yoshinaga, who also rode CB Queen. From then on, Yoshinaga would ride on MrCB's back all the way until his retirement. Now, his debut race was an easy win by 5 lengths. He was able to win the next race as well, but his start was not good enough and it was a hard race chasing from the back. In his third race, he also lost a lot at the start, and although he chased from the back of the field, he was just short of the horse in front just before the finish line, finishing second and losing for the first time. As you can see, MrCB did not have a good start. Therefore, he began to adopt a strategy of driving up from behind. The next year, he ran in the Kyoto Cup in February. This race is now equivalent to a Grade 3 race, but back in 1983, there was no grading system. The Triple Crown race, which I will explain later, is not a Grade 1 race, either. But there is no doubt that they were prestigious races. It was in the following year that the grading system was introduced and the current grades of Grade 1, Grade 2, etc., were assigned. Now, let's get back to the Kyoto News Cup. The horse that MrCB did not overtake in the previous race was running here. But this time, MrCB won by a narrow margin. In the next race, Yaoisho, he came from the back of the pack to weave his way through the pack and win the race. Thus, MrCB won 4 of the 5 races and faced the Triple Crown race, Satsuki Sho. However, it was raining on the day of the race, and the course was muddy, which was not good for a chasing horse like MrCB. MrCB positioned himself around 17th place, moved up in the 3rd corner, and came alongside the leader, Katsuragi Ace, in the 4th corner. As he entered the straightaway course, he quickly took the lead. He then held off a horse that had come up from behind to finish in 1st place. First, he won the first of the Triple Crown races. The next race is the Japan Derby. Today, the race is limited to 18 horses, but at that time, it was common for the race to exceed 20 horses. And in this era of the Derby, there was a jinx: they had to be in the top 10 on the first corner after the start to win. At the time, this was called the Derby position. However, MrCB failed at the start and had to race in 17th place out of 21. He gradually worked his way up the order and was sixth from the front around the last corner. However, in doing so, he made contact with a horse that was further out on the track from him or blocked the path of the horse behind him. MrCB regained his stance, and as he entered the straightaway, he passed the horse in front of him. And he finished in first place. MrCB won the double crown of glory. It was the moment he surpassed his father, Taosho Boy. However, after the race, the committee deliberated on the matter of his bumping into another horse near the last corner and obstructing the course, and although MrCB's victory remained unchanged, his jockey Yoshinaga was suspended for 4 days and stripped of the championship trophy. After the race, MrCB was not put out to pasture and spent the summer at the training center. As bad luck would have it, he stepped on a hard stone and hurt his hoof. Then he caught a summer cold, partly due to the pain in his hooves and partly due to the stress of the summer heat. As a result, his planned prep race for Kikosho, the Saint Laikinen in September, was given up and changed to the Kyoto Shinbun Cup in October. In the Kyoto Shinbun Cup, MrCB was still fat and weighed 12 kilograms more than he did in the Derby. In addition, the race was slowed down to a pace that was disadvantageous for the horses to drive up. As a result, MrCB finished in 4th place, 7 lengths behind the winner, Katsuragi Ace. He lost, however. His trainer decided that he had gotten better and imposed hard training. Then came the final race of the Triple Crown, Kikosho. However, since his father, Taosho Boy, had also lost at Kikosho, there were some people who were worried that MrCB might be too long for the 3,000 meters. In Kikosho, the runners will run 2 laps around the Kyoto course. MrCB was chasing at the back of the pack as usual, but on the second lap he wanted to go to the front on the uphill of the 3rd corner. The jockey respected his wishes and let him go ahead, but he did not slow down on the way down the hill. This is because the Kyoto course has a hill at the 3rd corner, which is a climb and then a descent, followed by the final corner, and there is a jinx that if you don't run slowly on the descent, you won't win the Kikosho. MrCB completely ignored that jinx. Rather than slowing down, he accelerated around the corner, and by the time he finished the last corner, he was in the lead. The crowd groaned and the trainer was surprised. No one had ever seen him run like this at Kikosho before. MrCB, however, extended the lead and went straight for the goal. He went on to run away with it, becoming only the 3rd horse in Japanese horse racing history to win the Triple Crown. MrCB was still going strong after the race, but the owner decided to avoid both Japan Cup and Arima Kinen. However, the decision was criticized by some foreign journalists who visited Japan for the Japan Cup, saying, "What do you mean there is no strongest horse in Japan?" However, in the Arima Kinen, Lead for You, who was the same generation as MrCB and finished 4th in the Kikosho, won the race, and MrCB's reputation grew even while he was resting. The following year, MrCB had plans to race, but his hoof condition deteriorated again, and he ended up taking the entire spring season off. His return to racing was at the Mainichi Crown in October. As explained earlier, the grading system was introduced in this year, so that each race was differentiated as Grade 1, Grade 2, etc. In this Mainichi Crown, for the first time in his life, MrCB did not become the most popular. That means he's been the most popular all this time. However, he was still the second favorite. In the race he came in second, losing to Katsuragi Ace. However, his push on the final straightaway course was tremendous. MrCB's time for the 600 meters to the finish line was 33.7 seconds. This was an unbelievably fast time for the time. This race showed that he was alive and well. The next race is Tenno-sho Autumn. Until the previous year, the Tenno-sho Autumn race had always been held at 3,200 meters, but this year it was shortened to 2,000 meters. MrCB was again the most favorite. However, in Tenno-sho Autumn, the most popular horse had not won the race for 19 consecutive years. However, MrCB was a horse that won both the Derby and Kikasho by ignoring theories. The jinx of the most favorite horse losing was not a problem for him. MrCB went through the big outside and overtook all the horses from the very back. It was record time of 1 minute 59.3 seconds. He showed the majesty of the Triple Crown. In Japan, a Triple Crown horse is born only about once every 10 years. However, the year after MrCB became a Triple Crown winner, another Triple Crown winner was born. It was Simbali Rudolph. Contrary to MrCB, who is a wild man with a chasing style, he excels at steady races where he can break out of a good position and win the race. Just the week after MrCB won the Tenno-sho Autumn, Rudolph became the undefeated Triple Crown winner. The two Triple Crown winners are set to face off in the Japan Cup. No Japanese horse has yet won the Japan Cup. Will it be Rudolph or CB who wins? Horse racing fans looked on with excitement. Only 2 weeks after the Kikasho, where Rudolph won the Triple Crown, was the Japan Cup. Therefore, he was still a little tired. CB was similar, but he was spaced a week longer than Rudolph. Therefore, the CB was the most popular one in the race. But it was neither of these that won. The first Japanese horse to win the Japan Cup was Katsuragi Ace, a horse of the same generation as MrCB. Rudolph came in third, and MrCB finished 10th. MrCB would then face them again in the Arima Kinen at the end of the year. He came from behind, but could not catch up with Rudolph and Katsuragi Ace, partly because the path in front of him was blocked. The winner was Rudolph, second was Katsuragi Ace, and third was MrCB. The following year he started with the Osaka Cup in March, but finished a close second. Then, in the Tenno-sho Spring, he had his third showdown with Simbali Rudolph. The Tenno-sho Spring race will be held on the same Kyoto course as the Kikasho, at 3,200 meters. He accelerated on the downhill of the second lap to take the lead, just like he did when he won Kikasho. However, he was passed by Rudolph on the straightaway and finished 5th, more than 10 lengths behind him. He then rested and resumed training, but developed periosteitis and decided to retire. He has a total of 8 wins in 15 races. 4 wins in Grade 1 and Grade 1 equivalent races. He faced the younger Triple Crown winner, Simbali Rudolph, 3 times and never won, and the two were called CB for popularity, Rudolph for ability. However, the CB was not without its strengths. He broke a number of theories and jinxes to win the big race. His appearance was always popular. MrCB became a stallion. As it turned out, his stallion performance was not good. However, several of them produced graded race winners. And even after he became a stallion, his rivalry with Rudolph continued. One of his most famous foals is a horse named Shako Glade, born in 1988. He was a chase horse like MrCB, and he ran in Satsuki Show. And 1988 was also the year that Rudolph's first foals were born. Yes, that's where Tokyo is. In the 1991 Satsuki Show, Tokyo came in first and Shako Glade came in second. After the results of Satsuki Show, many fans imagined another Triple Crown showdown. However, Shako Glade was not able to play a significant role after this. In 2000, MrCB died of laminitis. His father, Taosho Boy, died of the same disease. MrCB was 21 years old. Then, in 2004, his mother, CB Queen, passed away. She had lived a long life, 31 years old. That's all for this time. If you want to know more about Japanese horses, subscribe to this channel. Thank you.